Hey, greetings and good tidings from the side of a goddamn shopping plaza. What do you call it? Strip mall. I'm sitting behind on the side of a nice rock outcrop just outside of Boston. Further emphasizing the fact that number one, there is no true boundary between quote-unquote nature and the even urban environments that surround us. We'll talk about this seemingly unremarkable plant down below in a second, but let me just pontificate for a moment about the fact that just because you think you live in an urban environment and just because, you know, your habitat has suffered some or significant degradation does not mean that there are not interesting things to be seen and to be experienced around you. I am quite literally looking at an intersection. I'm sure you can hear the traffic noise and somebody taking out garbage, you know, behind a freaking dumpster. You know, I don't want to be too specific actually, but we're here just outside of Boston on these fells types habitats, these nice rocky outcrops. I've been here a million times before, but never over to this particular section, never to look for this specific plant. I'll give you the name of this plant. This is Boechera or Borodrina. It's got two different names. They changed the name on them. So the Florinova anglii places this in the genus Boechera. Hang on, I got my notes here. This is a mustard. It's in the family Brassicaceae, which is why even here in April, the thing's already starting to send up an inflorescence there. Borodrina is the supposedly what it's been renamed to, but Boechera missouriensis is the name that the Florinova anglii goes with. So this guy's just getting started. This will be one of those ones where we'll have to come back and see if we can get, you know, better shots of it when it's actually full flower. Probably just a week from now, or probably just a week, if that early. But this is a weird guy. Okay, so this plant is you know, super widespread around the eastern United States. It's very rare. All right, now would be a good time for me to put up a population map. It is very rare outside of the Wichitas and the Ozarks, the so-called central highlands of the United States, but it has a sporadic distribution all around like the eastern half of North America, just very sporadically encountered on these fell type habitats. It needs to be on rock, hanging out over a cliff, wedged in there. I believe most of this genera, which is aptly named Rockcress. Normally a lot of common names suck, but yes, Boechera, Borodrina, whatever you're going with, Boechera, whatever the hell it is, Rockcresses. They do like it rocky. They are generally chasmophiles, this being no exception. This has a closely related species that's, I think, even more rare or just as rare in New England, Borodrina. I'm just going to go with Borodrina because I can remember that. Borodrina levigata. Actually, if you punch this plant into iNaturalist, which I just tried to do on my phone, it doesn't know what the hell it's looking at because it's never been tagged on iNat anywhere in the eastern half of the state. Plenty of herbarium records of this plant exist. My guess is it's one of those things where it's in a habitat not many people are walking. And I mean, look at the thing. It's an fairly, you know, unremarkable mustard, as many of the, you know, rare mustards go. Generally speaking. Oh, geez, there's a C130. Look at this. Hang on a second. That's a C5 Galaxy, and two look like maybe F-16s. Taken off from God knows where. I mean, you see a lot of that in Franconia Notch when they fly the C-130s through there. Training missions, you know, they fly them down through like the mountain pass. But anyway, what was I saying? So you get a lot of, you know, here's to the military-industrial complex. You know, not many people are saying it, but I'll say it. Cheers to the military-industrial complex. Being sarcastic, obviously. Anyway, let's spend more money. You know, for the cost of one of those freaking jet airplanes, you could probably fund every single conservation project in New England, if not half the fucking country. But anyway, I'm not gonna go there right now. We're living in fucked up times. Anyway, I continue to digress. This is one of those examples of a cryptic plant. I'll consider it cryptic, that might be a little bit more abundant, although the fact that it's very common in the Boechera Mountains and down there in the Ozarks leads me to believe that that might not be the case. This might come down to a habitat issue, where if you're not seeing the habitat type you need, you're not going to see the plant. Goes back to that, oh, why can't you just move it? Why can't you just transplant it? Well, because an individual species has little to no significance outside of its habitat. So, you know, take that for what it is. Anyway, you get 4 rock cresses, 4 borodinias in New England. Levigata is one of them. It's rare. This is another one, missouriensis. It's also rare. I think 2 of the other ones are slightly more common, but generally speaking, the chasmophile habit of these plants makes them a bit hard to observe. So we're going to come back, hopefully, or I'll get some pictures, I'll get stock photos of it in bloom. It's got your typical, fairly unremarkable mustard flowers, but we're going to walk around. There's a couple of other cool fell-dwelling plants I wanted to take a look at today. Two or three, we'll see what we can get to. One is super common, anywhere, you know, even just a rocky outcrop in the woods, you'll see it. The other 2 are fairly uncommon, and I'm seeing them here as a disjunct from their typical habitat. So you need this rocky, sort of dry, you know, woodland. It gets plenty of water. It's sitting in the soil right now, it's damp, but it runs off quick, dries out fast. It's a shade-loving, cliff-dwelling plant, which is an unusual combination. Typically, shade lovers are not rock dwellers. You know, that's kind of the piece of the puzzle here. A lot of the rocky outcrop plants are specialists of open, unobstructed exposure, yada, yada, yada. So, Borodinia, Boechera, whatever the hell your desired species. These used to be an Arabidopsis, which is a super huge genus that got split up. You know, it's one of the cresses. It's a mustard. Brassicaceae, a lot of them are early flowering. That's why we're here in April. A little too early for this guy, but we'll come back. We'll see if we can get pictures. It's, you know, a fascinating little weirdo. I've been seeing the rosettes of this thing all up and down this escarpment, which I'll take a moment to just kind of sloppily show you what we're dealing with. Nice mature Juniperus virginiensis there. Eastern red cedar, quote unquote. You got your oaks. A general habitat shot here. You can see I'm sitting on top of the escarpment. This grows up on top in the shade, if you catch my drift. And yeah, just lots of red cedar. And a fairly open understory, because again, with the red cedars here, this will stay shaded in the winter, and it'll be completely shaded out once these deciduous trees leaf out. And yeah, as you can see, a very urban environment. So this is like an I forget what it is, S2 maybe plant. It's considered vulnerable, if not endangered. And you know, here it is, right in the backyard of somebody. So that's why I encourage people to not get discouraged. That's why I encourage people from out west to maybe, hey, take a little, you know, think about it a little bit before you start shitting on, you know, the Northeast, because this is a conservation tract. Like, we're this close to the urban environment, to the urban sprawl, but here is somewhat safe, and especially this specific little nestle is very safe. Oh, another plant, cool plant I can show you that it's growing with. Kind of looking worse for wear, but right down there you got Polypodium virginianum. See, there's a whole bunch of them starting to unfurl for the year, little fiddleheads. And you know, another plant that needs the rocky habitat and likes the shade. However, unlike this you know, green rockcress is the common name, if I didn't say. Unlike the green rockcress, this one will, you know, you get a nice little boulder out in the woods, this will pop up. Not a rare plant by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll hack it here just as well as they'll hack it on a little boulder in the woods. All right, that's almost, what is it, 9 minutes? Just talking about a mustard that's not even bloom. We'll come back, we'll see if we can get it. I was on a little mustard kick this time last year with the genus cardamine. Put up that little video there. Beauty of Brassicaceae. And I'm supposed to go on a trip to get all 4 of these species in one day, because they all like similar-ish habitats, usually differentiated by pH and hydrology. So, like I said, Levigata likes it calcareous, missouriensis, which is what this one is, likes it acidic, which is in fact what we're on. So anyway, we're going to cut it out there. We're going to go see if we can find a cool buttercup and then a cool saxifrage, all early bloomers. Those should actually be in bloom. This guy might need another week to 10 days. We'll check back in with you in a second.
2 weeks later.
Okay, and we're back here. A good 2 weeks later. Checking out, where'd it go? Checking out Boechera missouriensis, now actually in flower, for you to appreciate. This guy's sending out all sorts of little doodads of flowers, but there are the here's that main inflorescence right there. It's Brassicaceae. See a little style poking out there. And remember, it's gonna have 4 petals. Really characteristic sepals there. Those are the green things behind the petals, of course. And then up in there, if you can see it, it's been raining constantly the last few days. You can actually see it. 4 petals, but 6 stamens packed in there. So again, this is Boechera missouriensis. We've still got the basal rosette hanging on at the time of flowering, which I don't believe all Boechera, Borodinia, however you want to circumscribe them, I don't believe they all do that. I think some of them lose the basal rosette at some point. So just wanted to come back, document this in flower, get the timing of the phylogeny down regardless, because that's just important information to know for general conservation and observation of plants. And yeah, still very early May. This guy appears to be in full flower. This is actually a different individual than I had in the video before, but it's a little wet and sloppy, so I didn't feel like going over to the initial specimen, so to speak. There's another one right there. This guy got gnawed off. I worry about the deer going after stuff like this, but actually, like I said, I think in the initial video, quite a few of these around, doing relatively well, and again, seemingly always growing, either on or nestled within a rock under a beautiful Juniperus virginiana. Check out the cedar rust on that juniper. That's going to look real weird in a few months. Anyway, just a brief addendum so I could actually show you the thing in flower, and so that we could get some good flowering pics for the thumbnail. You know how it is. Take it easy, folks. Okay, now this is interesting. So this is this white flowering guy here on the left. This is Arabidopsis thaliana. This is a mousier cress. So this is a non-native member of the family Brassicaceae. He's in bloom, and then look who it is. We walked a little bit. We came over. Look who it is next to him. It's the Borodinia missouriensis. So I gotta be honest, this thing is damn near abundant when you get into like this right type of habitat. Ooh, excuse me. We'll pause for a second because I can at least show you, so you get the idea of some of the synapomorphies, because we do actual biology here. The mustard family Brassicaceae. Of course, not going to zoom in. Come on, buddy. You could do it. So just like his cousin, this Arabidopsis has the four-parted flowers, the trademark Brassicaceae sepals. You can see the little flowers in bud there. Typically going to resemble a head of broccoli, because again, broccoli is in this family. You're going to have 6 stamens in there, and then you're going to have this ovary, the stigma style. Well, actually, it doesn't really have much of a style, but that stigma and that ovary right there, that's the fruit. So that's the ripening fruit. These things reproduce prolifically. It's an invasive, but it doesn't really seem to bother much. And if it's, God knows how long it's been growing here, cohabitating with a cool native mustard. But whatever. You get some native ones in this. You get Cardamine hirsutus is another one that really annoys people, the hairy bitter cress. So just to give you an idea, these are all broadly called cresses, all these freaking mustards, and there's thousands of them and dozens of genera are all just kind of called cresses. But that's just to give you an idea of what the flowers would look like, because they're pretty similar to this. They're very closely related. And Brassicaceae, as much as it pains me to say, doesn't really ever do anything that crazy interesting with its flowers. They're more fascinating for their secondary metabolites, the weird habitats they grow in, the extreme habitats they can grow in, and the fact that they do all that. They're one of the few flowering plant families right up there with Proteaceae that doesn't commingle with fungus in the soil. They don't need it. I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure they do not form fungal associations, or maybe very few of them do. There's just some more of them down there. Cool plant, really cool habitat. Again, seems to always be coming up in like this rocky shit underneath a juniper, if you would like to go look for. Oh, look at the cool rust fungus on the juniper here. Have to see if I can figure out what that is. Maybe cedar apple rust, but cedar apple rust can look crazy. we'll see. We'll put that before the peer review board, and we'll figure out if we can find out what the hell that stuff is. Just to give you guys a vibe, the general habitat here. You know, this isn't a lush forest. This is rocky, barren, very thin soil. Lots of cool mosses. Red cedar can hack it here. You get some oaks like Quinquefolia, and then you get, you know, once you get into nice open exposures, you get your Vaccinium angustifolium. Your wee little lowbush blueberry there. I'll have to take a picture of that. Just to give you some of the context of where this thing grows. So it likes it not there because it's too far down the ledge, but say there was a nice, you know, so there was a nice mature red cedar right there over that ledge right here. Could maybe potentially get some of that Boechera there, but it was actually further down in the shade. This seems like it's too high up for it. Seems like it likes it kind of you know, actually pretty freaking shaded out. Oh, well, that's a bit of a shame. So they're here in abundance, but they're simply not flowering. Could have sworn one of my buddies had a picture of these in flower, but you know, these are everywhere, all over, supposedly everywhere over the eastern side of this little hill here. So we'll keep walking around and see if we can find them in bloom. But this is Micranthus virginiensis. This is the early saxifrage, and get that nice little leathery basal rosette there. But as you can see, his flowers are still very much in bud. But you know, these are also a chasmophile. Like it rocky, like it probably a bit wetter than the Boechera. But we'll see if we can see this guy in bloom. This is a pretty shaded part of the hill. Maybe if we go out into the sun, he'll be out. And I definitely saw this in bloom in April last year. So I'm being optimistic. Saxifragiaceae, if you didn't get the context, even though it's called early saxifrage. But we'll see if we can find him in bloom. It wasn't my main focus today. This is one I've seen before. Oh, geez. Come literally right around the corner, and you get another rock-loving plant. You know, catch the theme here, guys. Catch the fucking theme, hopefully. This is a Aquilegia canadensis. This is a red columbine. The only columbine species native to, I think native to the eastern half of the United States. Widespread distribution all over the eastern half. And one you could be growing in your garden. Does really well in cultivation. Actually one that, you know, I was making a whole big stink about, oh, you can't just move it. This one, well, it's not really a rare plant. Just needs the specific niche. But this one will do really quite well in your garden, and you know, widely available both from native growers and from you know, people that sell seeds. We get a little flower and bud here. We do have a little flower and bud. Ranunculaceae is the family, specifically the Thalictroideae subfamily has a flower and bud, and all of these, you know, Thalictroideae and maybe even just Ranunculaceae in general, really distinctive. Have a really distinctive way of unfurling their leaves for the season. Looks just like that. But yeah, he'll come right out of a rock crevice, but then you put it in some nice, like, you know, really rocky, sandy soil. It's very thin soil, water often, because remember this is the East Coast. They're, you know, drought tolerant to an extent, but they do, you know, appreciate frequent watering, water, dry out in rapid succession. All right, they don't like to be waterlogged. They've killed a few of them that way. But yeah, Aquilegia canadensis, the red columbine, another great one. Hey, so we didn't find our target Ranunculaceae. Apparently, I had to talk to my buddy. I was sniffing around the wrong spot. But this is in the family of Ranunculaceae too. Early flowering lineages, mustards and buttercups. This is oh geez, Anemonoides quinquefolius. This is, they call it windflower or wood anemone. Surprised to see it growing here. Usually I see it growing places a little bit more rich. There's that flower in bud right there. Of course, that'll just open right up. There's no calyx associated with that flowering structure. A quote uniseriate perianth. Another, you know, synapomorphy for the family Ranunculaceae, at least ones that are in the, I think it's Anemonoides subfamily. Different subfamily than that columbine, but same overall family, Ranunculaceae. Okay, it took us a minute and a half, but I was finally able to figure this out. My buddy was feeding me directions, and I was just not understanding what he meant. And then I realized if I had gone literally 2 steps further down, I would have seen exactly what he was talking about, and I would have found this plant about 45 minutes ago. But my, you know, trail hiking inadequacies aside, which don't get me wrong, there are plenty of. This is the other main target for today. This is a plant just like that Rockcress I've never seen before. It's another inhabitant of these rocky, well drained but shaded woodlands. This is Ranunculus. Oh god, now I'm going to forget. Not pedicularis. Hang on, I'm going to check my notes. So Ranunculus, the buttercup, as you could tell, core genus of the family Ranunculaceae. Pull up my little thing. Oh, fascicularis. So this is Ranunculus fascicularis. Generally prefers high pH bedrock from what I'm reading, but looking at a distribution map of it, doesn't really occur in western Massachusetts. I'm going to take that to mean it's probably a plant much more common in the Midwest. So, unlike some of the other Ranunculaceae members, this one does sort of have a little thing of sepals there underneath. These nice, heavily segmented leaves, as one would expect from many of the families in the order Ranunculaceae, and generally a plant restricted in range. Rare everywhere in New England, especially here in Mass, but can be found in the most randomest and neglected, for lack of a better term, places. You'll have to forgive me. Ranunculus, not really one of my special interests. Not this genus anyway. I'm fascinated with the family, but just wanted to show you this one. Cool, rare species. I'll have to look. I'll put up the distribution map as I often do. Quite a few of them on the hillside here. Earliest flowering member of the genus, which is saying something because that entire genus is pretty much famed for being early flowering. And coming up with a plant in a family not known for being early flowering. You got a little Antennaria there, potentially Antennaria neglecta, a Pussytoes, which is in the family Asteraceae, specifically in the paper daisy subfamily or tribe Nephalae. You zoom in there, all that white stuff. It's all just those modified. It does an elaborate thing with its filaries. They're typically white, they're typically showy, and they typically smell quite good. Those ones aren't fully open yet, so I don't really have a good read on the scent. And then last but not least, because I really got to wrap this up kind of abruptly. Yeah, okay, I would have just cut that out because it was really, really bumpy. But last but not least, we actually got the Micranthes virginiensis in bloom here. That was that plant we saw hanging out in the cliffs over on the other side. That was a north-facing slope. This is a south-facing slope. So they're getting a little bit more sun and subsequently are opening themselves up a bit earlier. Saxifragiaceae is the family. Beautiful rock dweller, cohabitating with the Antennaria and the Ranunculus fascicularis. Got a great video on these plants you can check out if you want to see. Get the hairy stems to protect it from, drying out, yeah, not really much else to say. Hopefully you got one or two, yes, what's coming up right under a rock. Hopefully you got one or two things out of this, but I gotta cut it off there, and I have an obligation to attend to. But yeah, Micranthes pennsylvanica, other cool one, other weirdo, way bigger than this. That one's a water dweller. Keep an eye out for that one. Micranthes, great genus, Saxifragiaceae, great family. What a nice day to be out. Some of the earliest, blooming plants of the region. All right, take it easy.